morning, everyone. This is Michelle Bach with Coolidge Wall. Just wanted to welcome everyone to the meeting. Appreciate everyone attending. And actually, speaking of attendance, I have been informed that we actually have above average attendance at our particular Safety Council meetings, which I greatly appreciate. I do appreciate everyone taking the time to be with us this morning. We are going to have a fabulous speaker today, and the presentation will actually be emailed to you after we're finished. So please keep an eye out for that as well. And hopefully Steve Roth is with us. And I would like to just go ahead and turn it over to Steve at this point.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm going to start first by thanking Charlotte for all of her, I hear she's retiring. So thank you, Charlotte, for all you've done for this Safety Council. We appreciated on the steering committee, all the work you've done in just excellent financials. So that's been a big asset to this council. So thank you very much. And we wish you well in your retirement. So thank you. Thanks again. For the latest information on COVID-19 in Ohio, please visit coronavirus.ohio.gov. I want to also, some of you probably have heard this by now, but last week on November 2nd, the Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation's Board of Directors approved Governor Mike DeWine's request to send $5 billion in dividends to Ohio employers to ease COVID-19's continued impact on state business, community, and workforce. This is BWC's third dividend in 2020, bringing total dividend dollars to employers to nearly $9 billion this year. We anticipate checks to be mailed the first 2 weeks of December. All told, private employers will see approximately $4.3 billion. Public employers, counties, cities, schools, etc., will see approximately $687 million in dividends, and this includes around $219 million for the schools. In Montgomery County alone, the dividend will be approximately $194.4 million. So that's a lot of money coming back into our community. To estimate your dividend, multiply your October dividend by 3.72, and that'll give you an idea of what you can expect in early December. This dividend will leave BWC with a net position of approximately $6.3 billion. The state's insurance fund remains in a strong position to support Ohio's injured workers for years to come. BWC's strong fiscal position is due to healthy investment returns on employer premiums, a declining number of claims each year, and prudent fiscal management. Given this is BWC's third dividend this year, we urge employers to consult their tax advisors on any potential tax implications. We will send employers a 1099 federal tax form. The Ohio Safety Congress will go virtual next year. Our annual Ohio Safety Congress and Expo will be an online-only event in 2021. Mark your calendars for March 10th and 11th. The event will feature dozens of learning sessions and a digital expo, allowing participants to chat virtually with vendors about new and existing products and services. As always, the event is free for Ohio employers. We'll open registration in January 2021 at ohiosafetycongress.com. The Medical and Health Symposium also goes online in 2021, so save these dates, April 8th, 9th, and 10th, for our first ever online medical and health symposium offering free learning opportunities and continuing education credits. Our award-winning symposium features a provider staff forum for office staff, members and managers, and a vocational rehabilitation workshop on April 8th. And then we will offer 2 days of provider clinical education on the 9th and 10th of April. More information on this symposium will be following. It'll come out in the next few weeks or months. Public employers that participate in the Policy Activity Rebate Program have until November 30th, so the end of this month, to earn your 50% rebate up to that $2,000 max. To earn the rebate, participants must complete 11 credits worth of activities chosen from more than the 33 available. Private employers have more time with the deadline of May 31st. Not a participant in the PAR program, for private employers it's not too late to enroll. Enrollment period ends January 29th, 2021. For public employers, you should consider signing up for next year, and you can do so now. To learn more about the program or check your progress, visit bwc.ohio.gov. Your local BWC safety consultants, industrial hygienists, and ergonomists are available to perform virtual consultations to improve your workplace safety programs. If you have safety concerns or issues you would like assistance with, please contact us. We are here to help. BWC's Division of Safety and Hygiene continues our series of free webinars covering a variety of workplace safety topics. Safety experts conduct these 1-hour webinars each Tuesday at 11 a.m. The remaining November lineup includes on the 17th, Stress, Learning Today for a Better Tomorrow, and then on November 24th, Hearing Conservation Program Replay. To register, visit bwc.ohio.gov and search for safety webinars. We recently started to deliver online training classes. These virtual classes began last month, and the remaining November lineup consists of, on the 17th of November, Electrical Basics in the morning, and then on November 18th, Lockout, Tagout, and Safety-related work practices. These courses delivered using WebEx are similar to the courses you may have attended in our training centers. They will offer BWC program credits for those who need to earn credits for the various BWC discount programs, and registration is through the BWC Learning Center, which is bwclearningcenter.com. If you have any questions on that, feel free to reach out to me. Happy to help. Our speaker this morning is Nate McGinnis. Nate originally is from Circleville, Ohio. He always wanted to be a meteorologist. After graduation from Ohio University with a bachelor's and master's degree in meteorology and geography, he started his career for the National Weather Service in Jacksonville, Florida. Some of his most memorable weather events were Hurricane Irma and Dorian, the West Mims swamp fire, and a rare winter storm. Last year, he returned to Ohio, joining the Weather Forecast Office in Wilmington, Ohio. Outside of work, he enjoys disc golf, traveling, and spending time with his wife and infant child. Please join me in welcoming Nate McGinnis.
Morning, everybody.
Morning, Nate.
How's everyone?
Doing well.
Well, I definitely appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to speak this morning. Us at the National Weather Service, just like you guys, have been dealing with the sort of restrictions, put in place due to the coronavirus. And so, anytime we have a chance to, talk to public people or work with our core partners, we're always going to take it, even if it has to be done virtually. So we definitely appreciate this opportunity to speak, and we're looking forward to our topic today. So yeah, as Steve said, my name is Nate McGinnis. I'm happy to be here today. I know the coronavirus is definitely taking up a lot of people's thoughts and decisions, but briefly, just for these next 30 to 45 minutes, I hope you can sort of transition into thinking about weather. And what we're going to talk about today is making sure that we review the sort of safety precautions that we take, day in and day out. The Ohio Valley area has really a threat for every type of weather outside of avalanches and really anything else can come our way, whether it's a remnant hurricane, tornado outbreak, blizzard. It's everything in the kitchen sink that can happen here. So as I said, let's just review our safety plans and go over that stuff today. So for the National Weather Service, we're just going to kind of go over how we're organized, just so that everyone's on the same page with regards to that, how we do or what we do and how we do it. And then we're going to dig into mainly severe weather today and just talk about the products, what they mean to you guys, and the actions that should follow when you hear them go into place. And we're going to talk briefly about just what it's like to be prepared and safe. And I know that for your businesses or schools or whatever sort of responsibilities you have over people, this is going to be the most important part, right? What do I do when I hear that there's a tornado warning? And what actions should I put into place? So that's kind of going to be the scope of today, and we'll get into it. So just our mission, again, just to kind of make sure everybody's on the same page, the National Weather Service mission is to provide weather, hydrologic, and climate forecasts and warnings for the protection of life and property and the enhancement of the national economy, which is exactly what we're doing here today, is we're talking about all three of those things: life, property, and the enhancement of the local economy. So the Department of Commerce is where we're housed, and then within NOAA, kind of down the chain, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and then within the National Weather Service, and then you have the WFOs, or weather forecast offices. So across every square mile of the United States, including Alaska and Hawaii, as far as some other territories, there is a WFO. There is a weather forecast office that is every day issuing forecasts. Every day they're looking over radar to make sure that there's no tornadoes, or if there are severe storms or tornadoes, they're issuing warnings. So every square mile of the United States is covered by one of these local weather forecast offices. Here's our wonderful building here in Wilmington, Ohio. It's full-time staffed by 25 employees, but primarily there's only maybe 2 or 3 in the building, especially now because of the coronavirus. We basically have our bare minimum staffing, which is about 2 people in the building at all times. Before coronavirus, you'd have your managers there during the day, but most of the time the primary shifts, forecast shifts, are only run by 2 or 3 people maximum. And that's done 24/7, 365. However, when we do have sort of severe weather scenarios come up, our full capacity gets up to about 8 or 10 people. So when all hands have to be on deck, all hands come in and work together to get the mission accomplished. And of course, none of this would be possible by just us alone. Us at the National Weather Service, we can do our best to issue the best forecasts and issue the best warnings. And even though we have a broad reach with NOAA Weather Radio, without our partners, our mission would fall flat, because we need those strong relationships with all of these individuals and groups to accomplish our mission. So I don't know if anyone here is associated with these organizations, but if you are, thank you so much for your continued partnership. All right, now getting into the meat and potatoes here. These are kind of the products, that sort of the timeline with regards to, let's say a severe thunderstorm event was expected maybe in 6 days. Well, you're not going to get a watch, you're not going to get a warning that far out. But what we do offer is what's called a hazardous weather outlook. And this may be something that you guys have never heard of before, and that's fine. This is for really those people that really want to make sure that they understand what's coming. Give me the best heads up that you can, because maybe you've got a lot of actions that need to be in place to be executed for you to get through a severe weather event, with your safety plan in place. So the hazardous weather outlook is just to discuss potential for hazardous weather within the next week. It could be within the next 24 hours, or it could be within the next 7 days. And it's really just to kind of highlight, here's what we're expecting over this area, and this is sort of the severity of the event that we're looking at here. Now, sort of the 3 primary what we call short-term products, which is basically the day of or the day before. An advisory is one of those sort of borderline products that can be confusing a lot of times to people, because it's an advisory. It doesn't really sound very scary like a warning would, but an advisory is to try and highlight a potential hazard that may not be so severe that we need a warning for. We're talking the winter weather advisories. We're talking significant storm advisories, things that are kind of on that cusp of becoming severe, but could still cause hazardous travel. They could cause there could be enough hazard there to where people may be surprised by it. So like freezing rain, sometimes just a little bit of freezing rain can cause a lot of issues during the morning commute. So we try to let people know using these advisories. Now for the watch warning. This is something that anytime we talk about safety, or we're talking to our community, we always want to reiterate the differences between a watch and a warning. A watch is a heads up. It's a, hey, watch out for the potential for hazardous weather, because us as meteorologists, we're looking at the atmosphere and we're thinking, if a storm were to form in this environment, it would have the potential to form a tornado. So there's more than likely going to be a tornado watch, meaning you should be, heads up, look out for tornadoes later today. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're ongoing right now, but it definitely is that sort of trigger that should be, okay, what would I do if there was a tornado warning in 2 to 3 hours for my area? That's what these watches are supposed to do. They're supposed to get people to think, what sort of actions can I start now? And then if and when a warning does come, I'll be prepared mentally for the execution of that. A warning is when your action plan should be put in place. We are seeking shelter. We are going to the safe spots in our businesses or in our schools. And that sort of is the last thing. It's a warning. You basically are in that safe spot, or your action is in place. their safety plan is in place until that warning is cleared, and you're essentially in the clear with regards to the hazard. So just to reiterate, watch, be prepared. This is conditions are favorable for development of severe thunderstorms in and near the watch area. You may never see a warning issued while you're inside a watch, but it is to get you prepared to act if warnings are issued. And then for the warning again, take action. This is, we've either got a report of severe weather or we have it indicated by radar, the tools that we're looking at, and we're basically saying, okay, now is the time to take shelter. There's an imminent threat to life and property. We are expecting damage, and that's sort of the over-encompassing thing with the warning is that's the action stage. All right. Now, just a little example. This is a fresh one. You know, I don't know everybody's stories. I actually was not here during the tornado watch of Memorial Day in 2019 back there in May. I was still in Jacksonville, Florida. However, I was still strongly impacted by this one because this is the area, this is the area that I've grown up in, you know, central, southwest Ohio. I know a lot of, you know, friends and family in this area. And so I was down in Jacksonville, Florida during this. And so I'll kind of tell you a little bit about my story as we go through this. But this is kind of the, you know, this is the big one. This is the tornado, you know, outbreak that you always fear as a meteorologist. You always know is possible in the Ohio Valley. They don't come around too often. But if I could just get you to think, you know, how should I prepare for severe weather? This is it. You know, they don't happen very often. We could probably go back to 2012 and then 2019. That's 7 years of, yes, we had hazardous weather during that 7 years, but these are the big tornado outbreaks that people always, you know, are fearful of, and they can happen around here. So how did we start off that day? You know, many people may not know this, but the Dayton and broader area did not start off in a tornado watch that day. The threat, this is during the afternoon. This is a tornado watch, which is issued by the Storm Prediction Center, which is within the National Weather Service. And they sort of said, hey, Northern Illinois, Northern Indiana, that's kind of the big threat this afternoon. However, as we go into the evening, there was an extension to the tornado watch that covered the Dayton area, and that was into the evening. So what was initially considered a threat, and there were some tornadoes up in Indiana and Illinois, but as we went into the evening hours that night, it was fairly clear that that threat was going to continue into the evening and overnight hours further east into Ohio. So this is another thing that why tornado watches are so important, is because initially this was considered the area of threat, but it continued into Ohio. And so there was a tornado watch that was added toward that evening, and that ended up being a really huge player into the tornado outbreak later that night. So this is the watch phase, right? This is when we want people to start preparing and to be ready to take action if a warning is to come. Next slide. And then here we go. Tornado warning time. You know, this is a little later that night. This is when, you know, you've got the, you know, damaging, intense tornado, you know, moving through eastern, you know, Dayton area, you know, starting to move into the Beaver Creek area. I believe I have a polygon here. Go ahead and press the, so again, this box looks a little bit small on my screen compared to what is supposed to be there. But essentially, there is a tornado warning polygon box that covers the warned area, that covers this storm that we know has a damaging tornado with it. And go ahead and click again. And I believe this is one of those things where this wasn't just a tornado warning, right? We had a tornado warning out, and it gave sort of this direction of which way the tornado was going. But because we knew the severity of this, we actually went a step higher. And if you click again, we should hopefully see that this was not just a tornado warning. This was a tornado warning that was then upgraded to a tornado emergency. And this is only the second time that this has been used in our weather forecast area. The first one was back in 2012 down along the Ohio River for the March 2nd, 2012 outbreak. But this is sort of that we want you to take action. We want you to take action when you hear a tornado warning is issued. But when you hear a tornado emergency being issued, this is the end all. This is the one that if you are not seeking shelter, if you are not taking, you know, correct plans and actions, there we are expecting loss of life. We are expecting destructive damage. And if anyone saw the pictures that, with the damage that occurred across North Dayton, you know what this tornado did. You understand now why a tornado emergency was so critical, because a tornado warning that can cover weak spin-ups to, damaging tornadoes. So, it can cover a wide range of destruction. However, a tornado emergency is something that us as meteorologists, we are essentially pleading, right? We are saying we know for certain that there is a destructive tornado on the ground, and we need you guys to make sure that you're putting your action plans into place. And, looking back at that day, which we're going to a little bit, it is very surprising, if not shocking to us, that the loss of life was so little. And perhaps, there have been some theories thrown out, like that the fact that it occurred in the middle of the night and you just didn't have a ton of people moving around during the afternoon. There was no hustle and bustle. Everyone was kind of in their safe places already in their house. They may not have been in their basements or, in their interior room, but they at least were kind of all together in the safe place of their house. And, fortunately, the loss of life was so little that day. Go ahead and go forward. So just looking at the pictures a little bit here, this is actually the east side of Dayton as the tornado was crossing Ohio 4. And just something I want you to keep in mind is this is an aerial view, and just to the south there is downtown Dayton. We have heard throughout, we've got 3 major metro areas, and there is and we're going to kind of go over it a little bit later, is that there is this belief that tornadoes can't hit big cities, and this did exactly that. It went just a couple miles north of downtown Dayton. And so this was just kind of to show you, if you imagine this tornado being just a little bit further to the south or west, instead of it going over this area where there's kind of nothing to be hit, it's going over major buildings, neighborhoods and stuff like that. So, and then this is kind of the one that I felt like was important for this meeting, and it's because it shows the damage that can happen to businesses, to industrial areas that you may oversee. This is one of those things where we don't really see this kind of damage from tornadoes here, because most of the time the tornadoes here are weak. They're spin ups, they're not long lived. But this is an example, a very recent example of just the raw destruction that can happen from a devastating tornado. So this is sort of a map here. You can sort of see downtown Dayton there in the middle. This is a map of the widespread tracks from the tornadoes themselves individually. You can see all the ones that were there north and east of Dayton. And I just for a minute want you to think, what if these tornadoes were all south Dayton? What if they were all moved down together and you saw these long tracks going through Middlesburg and Centerville and Kettering? These areas that I believe you guys have buildings and people to manage. That's what we want you to think about today when you start maybe rethinking your strategy when it comes to weather safety for the municipalities, the things that you handle. And it's not, like I said, it's not to scare. It is to prepare for the worst case scenario. And the fact that we basically have the worst case scenario that just happened a year and a half ago, just north of Dayton, should be a very shocking reminder to everybody what they should be prepared for. All right, so we've got that tornado outbreak fresh in our minds now. Let's just say I were to tell you, as a meteorologist, I have my crystal ball, and I were to say, all right, South Dayton, it's your turn next year, next spring, next April, whatever the case may be. It's your turn. I wish I could. I wish I could tell you that it wasn't going to happen for another 20 years. But it is the possibility that just because it was 7 years between the 2012 and 2019 outbreaks doesn't mean it's going to be 7 years again. So staying weather aware. How do we like to tell people to stay weather aware? Well, one of the easiest ways to do that is to have bookmarks for our webpage, because something that's just ready for you to go, that you'll be able to get as much information as possible very quickly, is just to know how to get to our page. So staying weather aware, always keep up with the latest forecasts, warnings, etc. And you can do that through our webpage. And this map right here is clickable. So essentially you can go to this little map, weather.gov/ILN, and you can click on your location and get sort of every single advisory or warning that's being issued for your area. So this is a great way to get weather information fairly quickly. All right, so sort of putting you in that scenario, while you're at work, you hear that a tornado watch has been issued. What sort of things come to mind that you're going to do? Here are some suggestions from us. You can check the radio, the local media, go to our website, look for time information, look for the clarification of this watch. What does it mean? What is it a severe thunderstorm watch? Is it a tornado watch? Are we expecting, widespread tornado, occurrences? And this is something that I encourage you to do is because that's what a watch is there for. A watch is there for you to get that information ahead of time and to kind of see what the watch is for and know what you're going to do in order to act appropriately for that. If you have a no weather radio, that's great. Make sure that that is hooked up and ready to go for situations like this. If not, it's not necessarily always about having a no weather radio, right? There's so much information on these devices nowadays that we don't want to maybe force people, you must have a no weather radio. That's not what I'm here to say today. I'm here to tell you today to make sure that you have multiple ways of receiving warnings, whether it's through your phones. You can put things on your phones. You can download weather apps that will tell you, hey, this is, you have a warning or you have a watch in place. Okay, so just know where you're going to go. And then let's just say that I have a company. Okay, I have a company and I've got 50 workers that are in this building. When a watch is issued, it would be a good time to let all of those workers know, hey, we've got a watch issued. Don't remember that if a warning is issued, we've got a plan in place. Make sure you execute that plan. And just like I said, kind of give everybody a heads up that, prepare yourselves for a warning if it were to be issued. All right, now let's go to the warning slide. This is the critical one. Now you've received a tornado warning and you have, like I said, let's go back to that. You have 50, coworkers in this building, and hopefully you've got some sort of plan in place, because I don't know what kind of vulnerabilities you have at your businesses or your schools, but think about that. What sort of things, like an all glass window, or an all glass wall, something that you have maybe it's a bank or something, and the entire thing is covered by windows, this sort of dangerous projectile that if it were to break and be sent into the building, it's not going to be very good for the people that are there. So think about your vulnerabilities. What sort of places do you need to move away from in order to appropriately seek shelter? We always see these videos of, whether it's hurricanes or severe storms, of people being in like the lobbies of these buildings, and you see the doors flapping in and out, and you see the winds rushing by, and it would only take one piece of debris to hit those windows, whether it's a tree branch or a piece of siding or whatever, to break those windows, and then all of a sudden you have a much bigger thing on your hands. So definitely think about those vulnerable areas. You want to make sure that you're seeking shelter in a place that's away from windows, that is, sort of in an interior room, and it's just making sure that your coworkers, or even the people that may be there, if you just have public personnel, visitors to those buildings, where do they go? How they haven't practiced the plan, and that's one of those things where the coworkers or yourselves need to be trained to make sure that you know how to guide these people to shelter, because they're now essentially in your protection because they're within your building. So make sure that those plans are in place. And then lastly, stay in that shelter. Stay in that shelter until you've been given notification that the threat is cleared. Us here at the National Weather Service, that there's no doubt that our technology is improving, right? We can issue warnings. We have the ability to issue warnings 45 an hour and a half, minutes in advance, not necessarily for tornadoes, but if we have like a strong line of severe storms, we know there's going to be wind threats. Their tornado, warnings can extend from, you have 2 minutes of warning to you have an hour and a half, time of warning. So there is something to be said for making sure that you stay up to date with information, making sure that you remain in your shelter until you know for sure that the threat is cleared, or you've been given, you've been told that the threat is cleared. So just another reminder there that a warning isn't always 15, 20 minutes, right? We want to be able to seek shelter from the bad weather and then get right back to business. But definitely don't forget that warnings can be different in times. So you want to be able to act the minute a warning's been issued, and you want to be able to stay until you know that the warning's been cleared. All right, next one. We always like to say 3 ways. The best you can, whether it's an all-weather radio, whether through your cell phone, the wireless emergency alert system, or through television. There are so many ways to receive warnings, and making sure that you have those in place and that you have people trained to use these devices and to act appropriately is critical when it comes to receiving warnings. Have a plan. This is something that, for me, like I said, I don't know all of your stories. I don't know, what your responsibilities are, what sort of people, what number of people you have to manage, and what sort of, vulnerabilities you have. But what sort of supply kits, do you need? What's the appropriate, area, to have these, a plan? What's your clearly defined, well-known safe space in your office? Where is that place that you know where to go? And then another thing, have your coworkers executed that. You don't have to wait for a tornado warning to execute the plan. Do drills. Think about, it may be silly. I mean, trust me, growing up, going through school, working at other places, it seems kind of silly going through drills, but it's pretty obvious that, these drills come in handy when severe weather does come around, because people know what to do and how to execute it. And I think another time, this is a good thing always to say, is you may actually execute this plan over and over and over again. Tornado warning, tornado warning, tornado warning. We do not want you to become numb to tornado warnings. We don't want you to become oversaturated with them. And it's one of those things where a tornado warning back in May of 2019 meant that there was a large destructive tornado on the ground. A tornado warning this winter or next spring could mean that there's a weak little spin up, 10 miles away from you. So there is always that opportunity that you just get warned and warned and warned, and you become numb to them. And we always like to remind people that it only takes one. It may be the 10th one, and we don't want to cry wolf or anything like that, but it may be that 10th one that is the critical one for your business. So always keep that in mind. And then lastly, if you're on the road on a routine basis, make sure you kind of keep an eye on your surroundings. And that's something, like I said, that's what a watch should do. On a crystal blue day and there's no watch out, and you check the hazardous weather outlook when you're drinking your coffee in the morning, we're good. You don't have to worry about this. But when a watch is in place, your brain should be calibrated to think, you know what? I may be exposed outside. I see dark clouds around. I don't have a warning yet, but that's where I'm going to go if there's a warning that's issued. I'm going to go to that building. I'm going to take our people, to that building to seek shelter. All right. These are just some facts, some brief facts here. Over 90% of the U.S., has been declared for weather-related disasters. So the United States, where it is on the globe, where it is within the weather, the jet stream patterns, we are in that favorable spot for severe weather. That's why we should always continue to refresh ourselves on our severe weather plans, because the United States just gets hit by them. It's not because the United States is special, but we're just where we're at on the globe means that we are in that favored spot for severe weather. We haven't really talked about it much, but flooding and flash flooding are the most underrated severe threats, but yet there are leading killers. We lose a lot of people to flash flooding. And like I said, I don't know what your vulnerabilities are. Are you near somewhere that floods all the time? And it's, it floods all the time when it pours, right? But what about the structure of your building? Is it close to a floodplain? Are you vulnerable to high water to the point where, that's kind of a tougher plan to have in place. Is where is high ground? What if you start to see water encroaching on your business? Where do you go from there? Those type of plans are also very important, just like, going into your tornado shelters. I mean, we're going to keep referencing May here. May, those tornadoes happen between 11 p.m. and 1:30 a.m. Just a little personal story. While I was in Jacksonville, Florida, My family currently lives southeast of Circleville. They're actually in Pickaway County. You guys may not know where that is, but Pickaway County is to the east, south of Columbus. And I was down in Jacksonville, Florida, tracking the tornadoes as they were occurring in Dayton, and I kind of gave my family a heads up. Hey, there's some tornadoes, some very bad tornadoes off to your west. You guys need to keep an eye on this as you head to bed. And just to keep the long story short, I kept giving them a heads up. Hey, these storms have weakened. They're not really producing tornadoes right now, but still keep an eye on these things. And eventually, the tornado that caused the Troutwood, Beaver Creek, the EF4, the EF3, actually developed a brand new tornado. That one storm developed a new brand new tornado just east of Circleville, ended up hitting my parents' house. So here I am 800 miles away watching a tornado head toward my family's home. And the thing was it was less than 100 yards wide, and it went right over their house. So that was something that occurred at 1 o'clock in the morning, and you never want that to happen, but it's a constant reminder that is now personal to me, is that these type of threats can happen anytime, in any month too. And that's something that, again, just to kind of pull you back and make you think, what would I do if this was happening at this particular time? Because it's going to be different. Your actions may be different if it's 1 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's been shown, it's been proven time and time again, the best defense against bad weather is not the strongest shelter, is not the smartest person. It's the people who have a plan in place. It's the people who have a plan in place and execute that plan when they're supposed to. All right. Tornado myths, I kind of teased these a little bit earlier, right? Tornadoes don't hit big cities. That's always a big one. Tornadoes can't cross bodies of water. That's going back to my master's. That's all I studied was how tornadoes evolve as they cross different terrains. And there's nothing remotely close to this being true. Tornadoes cross multiple bodies of water during that night in May. Tornadoes don't hit the same area twice. Xenia was obviously the older example, right, with 1974 and 2000, but Salina, Ohio, just north of here, has been hit with damaging tornadoes, an EF2 and an EF3 within the matter of 2 years. I mean, the tornado paths literally crisscross through that town within a period of 2 years or 3 years. So it's definitely not a good myth there that tornadoes can't hit the same area twice. And lastly, tornadoes don't occur in winter. That's for the Ohio Valley. That tornadoes can happen anytime during the year. And they're obviously more likely during specific times of the year, the spring and even sometimes the autumn. Those are kind of our two big periods that we're really watching out for tornadoes. But these myths have been proven to be busted over and over again. So definitely just a little fun reminder there. Well, we are coming into winter. I believe, keep pressing. Go ahead and click again, and one more time. So, winter weather is a little bit different. I know most of the time you're not worried about winter weather within a building around here. We don't, really we're just talking about travel and losing power. Those are the two big things that we deal with when it comes to winter weather. And we do have alerts and stuff like that. We're not going to go over those specifics today, but definitely as we're sitting here in November, I know we just went through a nice second summer there with 70s and lower 80s across the area, which was absolutely beautiful. Winter's just around the corner. So, refresh your mind on these things, making sure that if you are a traveler, if you do have a long commute, make sure that you have a plan in place for if you were to run into, stalled traffic, kind of think of the worst case scenario with regards to going into a ditch or something during a snowy day, and making sure that you're going to be the most comfortable as you can if you do become stranded in your vehicle. And then this may be more of your business or at home. The generators are wonderful pieces of technology, but they kill people every year. And they whether it's a hurricane that knocks out power. I heard a sad story from one of the hurricanes that hit Lake Charles, Louisiana, where a family of 5 were killed because they ran their generator in their garage. I mean, it's one of those things where they did everything they should have, right? They prepared, they stayed in place, they, had a generator ready to go for when they lost power. But that last part where they just need to make sure that their generator was not in an enclosed place, that didn't happen. And we lost 5 people because of that. Not because of the hurricane, but because of a poorly executed safety plan. All right, so this is kind of just a sort of an added thing. Anytime we talk to people, we always want them to make sure that if you guys do receive damage, I know that you're going to be assessing the damage, personally, but keep us in mind. We always appreciate, people calling us and saying, hey, I received damage, because it helps us. We issue our warnings, and we may not hear about the damage until someone reports it to us, because we don't have people on the ground. We do have volunteers. We call it our spotter network that we use to, but it's all volunteers. We're always dependent on other people calling us to say, hey, there was actually a tornado with that tornado warning, and that can even help us down the road, even if it's during the event. It's always very important for us to receive warnings. So if you want to, learn more about this, you can always look out for our Skywarn spotter talks that we actually have been doing virtually due to the coronavirus. And just to kind of round everything out here as we wrap up, the National Weather Service has been attempting to build what's called a weather ready nation. Basically, this initiative that we try to build a resilient community that in the face of climate change and extreme weather, water hazards, we want to try and build this network of people that have dedicated their responsibilities, their actions to become a weather-ready business, because our hope is that through the course of building this community, that we can impact a much larger group of people than just us doing safety talks like this. This is a very good way for me to talk to you guys, but how does it spread from there? How do we pull in, the employees that you have, or your coworkers, or whatever responsibilities that you may have? It's about bringing everybody under this Weather Ready Nation objective, so that we can save lives and property, right? We do have, for that Weather Ready Nation, we do have what's called an ambassador initiative. It is for basically, you become our eyes and ears. You become our sort of our way of saying, you can take over your responsibility, your entity that you manage, and you make those people resilient. We may not talk to your entire group of employees or individuals, but you can then do that. And so we have multiple weather radiation ambassadors. If you have any interest, I believe on this next one, and you are going to get the slide, so you may not be able to read this, but there was that link on the bottom of the previous slide. Once you receive the slides, check it out. If you're interested in becoming a Weather Ready Nation ambassador, and finding out more about what that is, please feel free to reach out to us and let us know. And I believe that wraps it up. I don't know how much time we have left, but I'm obviously here and willing to answer any questions that anybody may have.
Thank you very much for your time and all of that valuable information that will help keep us safe, which we greatly appreciate. To thank everyone for participating. The presentation will be emailed to everyone, which will be a great resource and contain a lot of information that we can look through again. So I would just like to thank Nate again, thank all of you for attending, and just hope everybody can keep staying there. Okay, thanks everyone.